Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a really important idea in psychological testing. Construct validity.
Okay.
You want to know why this matters and probably want to know quickly. We've got some solid info here, so let's jump right in. Understand what it is, why it's so crucial, and how we actually figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, at its core, construct validity asks a pretty fundamental question. Is our test really measuring this specific psychological idea, the construct we actually intend it to?
Right.
Like, think about a test designed for, say, happiness. Construct validity is all about whether it genuinely taps into that feeling, that state of well-being, rather than just, how often someone smiles or maybe how agreeable they are.
Okay, so it's not just about whether the questions seem like they're about happiness. That sounds more like content validity. Like, does it cover all the bases?
Exactly, that's content validity.
And it's also not just whether it predicts, say, happy behaviors, which I think is criterion validity, like volunteering or something.
Right, that's criterion. Construct validity is, well, it's digging deeper, isn't it, into the actual essence of what we're trying to get at.
Okay, deeper. So how do we build a case for it? How do we establish it?
Well, there are several approaches. A really key one is checking how our test relates to other measures. So for our happiness test, if it shows a strong positive link with other established scales of happiness, or maybe life satisfaction, that's good. That's convergent validity. It means it's connecting, converging with similar ideas.
Okay, so our happiness test should, like, hang out with other happiness tests. Makes sense.
Right.
What about things it shouldn't be similar to?
Well, that's discriminant validity. Just as important. We'd want our happiness test not to be strongly linked to measures of things that are, theoretically anyway, quite different.
Like what?
Like maybe neuroticism or anxiety scales. If our happiness test correlates really highly with anxiety, well, that's a red flag. It might suggest our test isn't purely measuring happiness after all.
Got it. So, friendly with the similar concepts, but keeps its distance from the unrelated ones. Good boundaries. What other tools are in the toolkit?
Factor analysis is another really powerful one. It's a statistical technique.
Okay.
Imagine you take all the questions on our happiness test. Factor analysis helps sort them into groups based on how people actually respond. So if our theory of happiness says it has different parts, like maybe joy and life purpose.
Right, distinct components.
Exactly. Factor analysis can show us if the questions people answer actually do cluster together in those meaningful ways we predicted. It helps confirm the structure.
Now, you mentioned earlier this is especially critical for abstract things. Happiness, intelligence, anxiety. Why? Particularly for those.
Because you can't directly see them. We can't, open up someone's head and point to the happiness part or the intelligence bit.
It's true. Wish we could sometimes.
Maybe. But since we can't, our tests are always indirect measures. They're proxies. So construct validity is absolutely vital to make sure our indirect tools are actually, hitting the mark. That they're measuring the intended abstract concept and not just something kind of related but different.
And what can mess this up? What are the threats to construct validity?
Oh, several things. A big one is just having a poorly defined construct to begin with. If we don't have a really clear, solid, well-thought-out theory of what happiness is, how can we possibly build a test to measure it accurately?
Good point. Garbage in, garbage out, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And also, flawed methods. Ambiguous questions on the test, weird scoring systems. Anything that introduces noise or bias can undermine the validity.
So this brings up an interesting point. Can a test be reliable, like give consistent scores but still not have construct validity?
Oh, absolutely. That happens. Think of a bathroom scale. Imagine it consistently reads 5 pounds heavy every single time you step on it.
Okay. Consistently wrong.
Exactly. It's reliable, right? The reading is consistent. But it's not valid. It's not giving you an accurate measure of your actual weight.
I see.
It's the same with psychological tests. You can have one that gives really consistent scores, but those scores just don't reflect the underlying construct you're trying to measure. Reliability is necessary, but it's definitely not sufficient for validity.
Okay, that scale analogy helps. So if a test lacks this construct validity, what are the real-world consequences? Why should we care?
Well, the consequences can be pretty significant. Any research findings, any conclusions we draw using that test, they basically become shaky, maybe even meaningless.
How so?
If we're trying to study, say, the effectiveness of a therapy for anxiety, using an anxiety test that isn't actually measuring anxiety properly, well, our conclusions about whether the therapy works are built on a faulty foundation.
Right. The results would be misleading.
Completely misleading. Or if we're using a personality test for hiring that doesn't validly measure job-relevant traits, you get the idea. Bad decisions follow from bad measurement.
So in practice, when someone's looking at, say, a new personality test or an intelligence test, how is this evaluation done? Is it a one-time check?
Oh, it's definitely not a one-time thing. It's more like building a case over time, gathering different pieces of
Like
evidence.
a detective?
Sort of. You look for patterns.
Hmm.
Do people who score high on this new measure of conscientiousness also tend to get better performance reviews, like the theory predicts?
Okay.
Do their scores correlate appropriately with older, established conscientiousness tests? Do they not correlate with things they shouldn't? You're constantly looking at these relationships, these patterns of correlations and group differences to build confidence that, yes, this test seems to be measuring the construct we think it is.
Okay, let's try and sum this up then. The big takeaway seems to be that construct validity is fundamentally about ensuring our measurement tools, especially for these complex psychological ideas, are actually doing the job we designed them for, measuring what they claim to measure.
That's the heart of it, yes. Are we measuring what we think we're measuring?
Good.
And it makes you think beyond just formal tests. How often in daily life do we rely on certain indicators, maybe a company's latest earnings report or a student's GPA, or even just someone's outward confidence, and we just assume it perfectly reflects some deeper reality?
Yeah. Assuming that number or that behavior tells the whole story.
Exactly. Without really stopping to ask, does it? Is this indicator really a valid measure of the underlying quality I care about? It's a really valuable critical thinking lens, questioning that link between the measurement and the construct, well beyond the lab or the clinic.
A good final thought. Question the measure, not just the result. Thanks for breaking that down.
My pleasure. It's a crucial concept.